Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Pei Daled, Daf 84 of Masechta Pesachim. So who could tell me what Daf 84 talks about? Eating cartilage from a korban pesach. What do you think? Can you eat like the ears and stuff? I don't know. I guess we'll see. No, sir. What happens if you leave over stuff from the korban pesach? Do we have to whip you? What do you guys think? Breaking bones of the korban pesach. I feel like we've discussed that recently. You're not supposed to, right? Ve'etzem lo tishbru bo. You don't break the bones of a korban pesach. So we're going to discuss a machlokas there between the Tanakam and Rebbe. That's really going to take us for the entire Amud Beis. The Pei Daled Amud Beis is pretty big. It's not that complicated, but it's a little big. I wonder if it's going to take us some time. Mistama, right? That's just the way it works, right? The bigger the page, the more time it takes. But let's see. Overall, it's a nice daf. So we're going to start in daf Pei Daled Amud Aleph, 3 lines in at the new Mishnah. Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol ye'achol b'gdi arach v'rashe knafayim v'aschusim. What do you guys think that means? Let's go through it slowly. Kol hanechal b'shor hagadol. Anything that can be eaten by a large ox. Nechol b'gdi ye'achol b'gdi arach. Can be eaten by a soft little baby goat. What this means is that, I guess, as a animal matures, there are parts of the animal that get harder, right? That when it's a baby, it might be soft, and as it grows up, it gets hard, and then you can't eat it anymore because it's too hard to eat. So what the Mishnah is saying, if you take a big, full-sized ox with all of its hard parts and stuff, so there'll be parts of the ox that you're going to eat, and part of the ox that you're not going to eat. So what the Mishnah is saying is that only the parts that you would eat on a large, fully matured ox is what you would eat on a soft, young baby goat, i.e. there are going to be parts of the goat that are soft, just due to the fact that it's very young and soft, I guess. So any part of the animal that you might say, oh wow, cool, we can eat this because this is a very young, soft goat, think again, right? Meaning if you wouldn't eat it if it was a mature ox, don't eat it when it's a young, soft goat. And then the Gemara is going to discuss how this exactly fits in, but then we also say the tips of the shoulder blades and also other cartilage, and so that is edible. The Gemara right now is going to try to explain where does this fit into things. Let's see. Says the Gemara, Rabba Rami. Rabba asks the following question. On the one hand, Tanan kol nechol b'shor hagadol ya'achol b'gdi arach v'she'enu nechol lo. So on the one hand, our Mishnah says that only the parts of the animal that would be eaten on a mature ox is what you would eat on the gdi harach, on the young, soft korban pesach. V'she'eno nechol lo, implying that if any part that would not be eaten on a mature ox, well then you would not eat on a young goat that you're using for the pesach, korban pesach, even though it's soft in this particular instance and edible. But then but then if we continue in the Mishnah, it says that the tips of the shoulder blades and this other cartilage you're allowed to eat. But these would not be eaten by a large ox. So what's the deal? In the ratio we're saying that anything that would not be eaten in a large ox you wouldn't eat by the korban pesach, yet then we're giving examples of things that are not eaten by a large ox, yet they are eaten by korban pesach. Can somebody help me here? So Rabbah says, Lemaise, it's machlokas tanoim. V'achi katanin, this is how you have to learn the Mishnah. Anything that is edible in a mature ox, you can eat by the soft korban pesach. V'she'enu nechol lo. And any part of a mature ox that you would not be able to eat because it's already gotten too firm and hard, so then you would not eat it by a korban pesach, even though the korban pesach is a young goat that it's still soft. However, v'yesh omer, there are those who say af roshek nafayim v'aschusim, that even the tips of the shoulder blades and the cartilage can be eaten as well. So it's machlokas tanoim. Okay. Rava Amar, Main katani, vachi katani. Rava disagrees with Rabba, and he says that it is not a machlokas tanoim. The seifa of the Mishnah, the second part of the Mishnah, is actually an explanation, an expansion upon the first part of the Mishnah. And this is how you have to learn it. Kol hanecho b'shor hagadol b'shilka, anything that is edible on a large ox, on a mature ox, if it's boiled, can be eaten in a soft goat for a korban pesach, roasted. And what are examples of things, parts of a mature ox that you can't eat it, as is or roasted, but you can, if you boil it, then you can soften it up and then you can eat it. The Mishnah explains, that's a reference to the tips of the shoulder blades and cartilage. So, according to Rava, it's all teaching just one thing. And what it's saying is anything from a mature ox that is edible, even if you would have to, boil it first and make it soft, that's fine. Then you can eat it on a korban pesach. And what's an example of something that you would have to boil it first to soften it up? That is the tips of the shoulder blades and this other cartilage. Tanya Kavasi de Rave. And we have a brisa supporting Rava's explanation of the Mishnah, which is anything that can be eaten by a mature ox, if you boil it, can be eaten by a soft kid that you're using for your korban pesach, roasted. And what are these things? The tips of the shoulder blades and cartilage. And as we learned the other day, the soft sinews are considered like regular meat. It was stated, Gidin shesofan lahakshos. Okay, what if you have these sinews that are going to get hard, but right now they're soft? So do we go based on how they are now and treat them as soft meat? Or do we say, well, in the future they're going to get hard? And Rashi points out, like for example, the veins in the neck. I don't know much about the veins. Maybe I have some veins in my neck. Let's see. Are these hard? I don't know. I feel like this in the back here is a bone. I don't know. What's this stuff? Is this the hard? I don't know. What's this? What am I touching here? That's like what's that, like an Adam's apple thing? What's that, like a bone, or is that the hard vein? Probably not the hard vein. I don't know. Alright. Ich weiß nicht. I don't know. Okay. Says the Gemara, Itmar, let's say that again. So if you have these sinews that are going to get hard, so I guess maybe sinews in the neck. Alright, I don't know. Let's go weiter. Rabbi Yochanan says that these sinews in the neck, you can be nimnin alav b'pesach. If you go to sign up for korban pesach and you say, okay, we're kind of running out of space here. Do you want to eat the neck sinews? And you're like, all right, I guess, whatever, sounds good to me. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, that's fine. According to Rish Lakish, it's not okay. Rabbi Yochanan amar nimnin alein basar hashtaz linon. Rabbi Yochanan says, sure, no problem. You can be counted. You can join the korban pesach if you're, even if what you're assigned is the sinews in the neck, because basar hashtaz linon. Because we go based on how they are now. Even though, in the future, if you let this baby goat become a mature goat, it will get hard and you won't be able to eat it. But right now, you can eat it. So therefore, that's fine. Whereas Rish Lakish says, no, we go based on how they will be in the future, and in the future, they're going to be hard and inedible. Therefore, you cannot sort of sign up for that part of the korban pesach. Now Rish Lakish asks a question against Rabbi Yochanan. What about our Mishnah that says that only things that can be eaten by a mature ox can be eaten by a soft young kid? Umahein, what are they? That is the tips of the shoulder blades and this cartilage. Hani'in aval gidin shesofan lakshos lo. And Rish Lakish wants to argue that, yeah, the Mishnah gave two specific examples of exceptions to the rule. That is, the tips of the shoulder blades and, I don't know, certain types of cartilage. But that would not include the sinews of the neck. So Amar Le, so Rabbi Yochanan responds to Rish Lakish, Tana Hane V'adin Lahanoch, says Rabbi Yochanan that when the Mishnah says the tips of the shoulder blades and also this cartilage, it would also include the sinews in the neck. How come? Hani my taima. What's the reason why tips of the shoulder blades and cartilage you would be able to eat from the korban pesach? Because even by a mature ox, you can eat these things if they are boiled. Hanoch nami. So also the sinews in the neck, you can eat by a large ox if you boil it, and therefore Rabbi Yochanan doesn't have a problem with the sinews of the neck. Amrle Yirmiyah Rabbi Avin, says Rabbi Yirmiyah to Rabbi Avin, Ki azlas l'kamid Rabbi Bo, when you go before Rabbi Bo, Rami, they ask him the following question: Amr Rabbi Yochanan gidin shesofan lakshos nimnan aleim bepesach. Does Rabbi Yochanan really say what we just said that he says, which is that these sinews in the neck, you are permitted to join a korban pesach to eat those parts? Alma basar hashtaz linan, which means that we go based on the current reality, which is that the fact of the matter is that right now it's soft. Rabba minei Rish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan, Rish Lakish asks from Rabbi Yochanan, or arosh shel egel arach mau sheyitama. Oh, so Rish Lakish asks Rabbi Yochanan, he says, if you have this skin on the top of this hide on the top of a calf, is it going to be tummy tumas ochlin? I guess that there's certain hides on the top of the calf that is soft, but as it gets older, it's going to get hard. When it's soft, you can eat it. When it gets hard, you cannot eat it. The question is it tummy tumas ochlin? Do we treat it based on how it is now, or do we treat it based on how it is later? V'amalo ein metame. And what did Rabbi Yochanan answer to Rish Lakish? He says it's not metame tumas ochlin. Amabasu basofas lina, which means that we go based on how it is in the future, not based on how it is now. So on the one hand, when it comes to this, hide on the top of the cow, he seems to be saying it goes based on how it's going to be in the future, and therefore it's not metame tumas ochlin, because in the future it's going to be hard and inedible. And yet when it comes to, what does it come to? Oh gosh, what are we talking about? Can someone remind me what we're talking about? Seriously, I forgot. When it comes to these veins, to these sinews and stuff, Rabbi Yochanan is saying that since right now they're edible, you could join on the korban pesach. So Amrle, so Rabbi Yirmiyah responds to, so Rabbi Avin responds to Rabbi Yirmiyah, whoever asked you this question wasn't paying attention to the flour that he was grinding. Funny kind of response. Right? Imagine you're grinding flour or whatever, and you're not even paying attention to what you're grinding. You're not paying attention to what you're asking. Because after all, Rabbi Yochanan retracted from Rish Lakish, and he says, don't give me a hard time because I say b'lashon yachid. What in the world does this mean? So it means the following. It means that Rabbi Yochanan rescinded his initial opinion. His initial opinion was that these sinews of the neck that in the future are going to get hard, you would be able to be part of that for the korban pesach. And then says, who is it? Rabbi Avin, that Rabbi Yochanan rescinded on that opinion and held like Rish Lakish that you would not be able to join on the korban pesach to eat the sinews of the neck, which in the future are going to get hard, because we have to be concerned about what they're going to be in the future. In the future, they're going to be hard and inedible. Therefore, Rabbi Yochanan rescinded and said that you may not join in the korban pesach to eat those parts of the animal. Now, what are we saying there at the end? There's a shaila in Masechta Chulin based on this hide of the calf on the top of the head, that it's soft when it's young and then it gets hard. Now, there's a Mishnah that considers it to be food, that considers it to be basar. So then the question is, Rabbi Yochanan, what do you do about that Mishnah? It's a Stam Mishnah, and it seems to be saying that this hide on the top of the head is soft and it's considered food, which implies that it's considered meat, which implies that we go based on how it is right now, not based on how it is in the future. To which Rabbi Yochanan says to Rish Lakish, don't ask me a kasha from that Mishnah. That Mishnah is not a Stam Mishnah, it's Davka a Das Yachid, a singular opinion. We don't paskin like it. Says Rabbi Yochanan, really the way that we paskin is based on how it is in the future. In the future it's going to be hard, therefore it will not be Matami Tumas Ochlin, and also in terms of the sinews for the korban pesach, you would not be able to join on the korban pesach for the sinews, which is what he says at the end. From the Atakniteni, don't give me a hard time from that other Mishnah in Chulin, which says that the hide at the top of the head of the calf is like basar, is like meat, that, right? And therefore it should be Matami Tumas Ochlin. I learned that Mishnah to be a Das Yachid, not a consensus Stam Mishnah opinion. Okay, there you go. So if that's the case, it sounds like really Rav is the only one who's saying that there's that Tanakama. Well, I guess he says no, meaning no. I'm sorry. According to Rav, he seems to be explaining our Mishnah as saying that as long as you can eat it if it's boiled, so you can eat it by the korban pesach. Yet sounds like everybody else, whether it's Rav says it's machlokes, both Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish seem to be assuming that since if in the future it's going to be hard, then you won't be able to eat it. Interesting. Nu Mishnah Shover Etzem the Pesach Hator Arizeloka Arboim. So if somebody breaks the bones of a korban pesach, you're not allowed to break the bones of a korban pesach when you're eating it. If you do break the bones, so then you get malchus. We get lashes, because it says Vetzem lo sishbru bo, do not break the bones, and therefore it's a lav, it's a prohibition. And if you violate it, you get malchus. Just like any lav, any mitzvah lo saseh in the Torah. If, you'd have to get warning, of course, but assuming that there was the proper protocol, there would be malchus involved. But somebody who leaves over, right? You don't manage to chaparan, you don't manage to finish all of the korban pesach on Pesach night. Vashover b'tamei, or if you have a korban that's tamei, kilu it's pasul, and you break the bones of a korban that's pasul, so then you would not be chayiv malchus. Now, why would you be chayiv malchus for either one? So by noser it says lo sosir mimenu ad boker, do not leave any over to the morning. So I might think that if you do leave over to the morning, you'll be chayiv malchus, and then of course breaking the bones. We just said ve'etzem lo sishbru bo. Says the Gemara b'shlama mosir b'tohor. So I understand why there would be no malchus for noser. How come? Titania, because we learned in the Brayso, lo sosim mimenu ad boker. Okay, the pasuk says, do not leave over any of the korban pesach to the morning. So that sounds like it's a mitzvah lo saseh, and you would be chayiv malchus. But then it says, va'nosu mimenu ad boker v'gomer, and whatever is left over, burn it. Right, that the pasuk is giving a mitzvah aseh after a mitzvah lo saseh. Lomer shein loke divrei Rabbi Yehuda, to say you don't get malchus. This is what's called a lav anita kla aseh. When you have a lo ta'aseh that's immediately followed by a mitzvah aseh. And Rashi gives two explanations. The first one I kind of like, which is basically when you have a mitzvah lo ta'aseh immediately followed by a mitzvah aseh, what it's saying is, sure, don't do this. In the event that you did do it, here's what you got to do, and you'll fix it, right? So it's saying lo tosir mimenu ad boker. Don't leave over the korban pesach to the morning. What if you did? Okay, no big deal. Don't worry. This is what you do. Burn it. But you're not going to be chayiv malchus. And the second way to learn it is that we learned earlier at some point this concept of lav de chasima, right? It says losach shem shor b'disho, and then immediately talks about malchus afterwards. So it would have to be similar to the lav de chasima, which this isn't that seder. But okay, lav anita kla aseh, when you have a mitzvah lo ta'aseh followed by a mitzvah aseh, so then you're not going to get malchus, and that is why you're not going to get malchus for noser. If you leave it over, just burn it. Fine. That was Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. Rabbi Yaakov Omer says, Rabbi Yaakov lo min Hashem uzeh, this is not the reason why, ella rather, mishum davle lav shem bo maise, vein loken olive. Okay, so rather, says Rabbi Yaakov, the reason why you're not going to get malchus by noser is because it's a lav shem bo maise. It's a lav that you didn't do anything. It's dafka the opposite. You didn't do something. You didn't eat enough. You didn't chap arayin. So therefore, we're not going to give you malchus for a lav shein b'maisa. Okay, a prohibition that doesn't actually have an activity involved with it. How come if I break the bones of a tamei korban pesach, I'm not chayiv malchus? Because the pasuk says v'etzem l'sishbru bo b'kasher v'lo b'pasul. The pasuk says v'etzem l'sishbru bo. Do not break the bone bo in it. What's bo? So b'kasher v'lo b'pasul. It means a kosher korban pesach, don't break the bones. A pasul korban pesach, it's okay, you can break the bones. Tanu Rabbanan, the Rabbi said v'etzem l'sishbru bo b'kasher v'lo b'pasul. Okay, so the Tanna Kama says like what we just said, that when it says v'etzem l'sishbru bo, it means don't break the bones of a kosher korban pesach. But if you break the bones of a pasul korban pesach, you won't be chayiv malchus. Rebbe Omer says, Rebbe b'bayis echad ye'achel. The pasuk says, right, the same pasuk that says v'etzem l'sishbru bo, it also says b'bayis echad ye'achel. You have right that the korban pesach has to be eaten in one house, and then it says in the continuation, v'etzem l'sishbru bo, do not break any bones of the korban pesach. Kol roi la'achila yesh bo mishum shviras etzem. So only a korban pesach that is fit to be eaten, that is able to be eaten, that is where v'etzem l'sishbru bo applies. But if it's not fit to be eaten, so then the prohibition against breaking the bones does not apply. My benai, what's the nafkamina between Rebbe and the Tanna Kama? Rabbi Yirmiyah, pesach haba b'tumah ki benayu. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says that the nafkamina is going to be pesach haba b'tumah. What happens when all of Am Yisrael, or the majority of Am Yisrael, is tamei? So then they bring the korban pesach b'tumah, right? So l'madam or kosher, hay pasulu. Madam roi la'achila, hanam roi la'achilu. So according to the Tanna Kama, who says that if the korban is pasul, you will not be chayiv malchus. Well, the korban is pasul, it's tamei. So therefore, you're not going to be chayiv malchus. But at the same time, it's roi la'achila, right? We said pesach haba b'tumah, ne'echol b'tumah. If you have the majority of Am Yisrael's tamei, they bring the korban pesach b'tumah, they're going to eat it b'tumah. Right, as Rashi points out, top Rashi on the page, on Pedal and Beis, Shinaisa b'psul, the tumah d'chuya b'sibur, that the pesach was done b'psul because tumah d'chuya b'sibur. Tumah is pushed off. It's not hutra. It's not mutter. It's still tamei. Ela shekan gzeres hakos of the fotrimbo. But the pasuk says, look, if the majority of Am Yisrael is tamei, they can bring it b'tamei. They're going to be b'tumah. They're going to be pasul. They're not going to. What? No, they're going to be potter, and they're nonetheless going to eat it. So if you say that if it's pasul, you're not going to be chayiv malchus, well, this is pasul. If you're going to say that it's roi la'achila, well, it's roi la'achila, so you're going to be chayiv. So that's a nafkamina. And basically now, for the rest of the page, we're going to be giving different nafkaminas between the Tanna Kama and Rebbe. So here we go. Rav Yosef Amar, ki agavna d'chulama ein bo mishum shviras ha'etzem. So it says of Yosef that everyone would agree that by Pesach haba b'tumah there's going to be no problem of breaking bones. And then he adds something that the Gos Abach Taka gets rid of. Lakule ka'asi v'ipasolu. Okay, the Rebbe is coming to Davka be mekil, to be more lenient over here, and this is pasul. I don't know, the Gos Abach gets rid of these words. Read them if you want, don't read them if you want. But he says, Rav Yosef's suggestion is, what about a korban pesach that had a shasa kosher, right? The shchita was done properly, the zrikas adam was done properly, and then maybe I don't know, the owners died or something, or it became tummy. Something happened after it was already a kosher. It was done properly. So the mandamar kosher, a kosher. So according to mandamar, who says that if it's kosher you get malchus, well, this is a korban pesach that was prepared properly, so you'll be chayiv malchus for breaking its bones. But if you say it's about being roi la'achila, right now you're unable to eat this korban pesach because some kind of psul happened to it, so you can't eat it, so you can be potter from malchus. So according to Tanna Kama, says it's about being kosher. It was done properly, it's kosher, so therefore you're chayiv malchus. But according to Mandamar, says you have to be able to eat it. Rebbe, you can't eat it, so you're going to be potter from malchus. Abaye Omar, Abaye says, Kuliyama ki agavna, ein bo mishum shviras etzem. Abaye argues on his Rebbe Rav Yosef, and he says, no, when it comes to if it had a shas hakosher and then became pasul, everyone agrees that there would be no issue of breaking its bones because it's pasul. My time pasul. Because right now lemaise it's pasul, therefore you're going to be pater from malchus. So what's his suggestion? So Abaye wants to argue that the nafkamina between the Tanakama and Rebbe is going to be, what if you break the bones of the korban pesach on the 14th in the afternoon before Yom Tov starts? So at that point, it's a kosher korban pesach. You shechted it, you did zrikas adam, you did everything you had to do. And now you're just waiting until the nighttime. And now, so it's a kosher korban pesach, but you can't eat it until the nighttime. So on the one hand, if you say it's about being kosher, it's kosher. If you say it's about being able to eat it, you can't eat it right now. L'manda Amar kosher or kosher. So according to the Tanakam, who says it's about being kosher, this is a kosher korban pesach. And therefore, if you break the bones on Erev Yom Tov, you're b'chayiv malchus. But if you say it's about being fit to be eaten, well, you can't eat it right now. You got to wait till the night. Therefore, according to Rebbe, Abaye wants to argue, if you break the bones on Erev Pesach, you would take be potter. Meisvei, Bivakasha against Abaye. Rebbe himself says, Nimnin amoach shebarosh, ve'nimnin amoach shebekulis. What do you guys think about that? You could join together on a korban pesach in order to eat the brains, but you can't join together on a korban pesach in order to eat the marrow of the bones. Wow. So you go to sign up for the korban pesach, and they're like, hey man, sure, we got like one spot left, but it's the brains. You in? And you're like, I don't know, man. That sounds gross. That's what happens. But Akopanim, Rebbe seems to be saying that if you're into that, maybe Taka people dafka like the brains. That would be acceptable. However, if they were to say to you something slightly different, which is all we got left is the bone marrow, that would be a problem. You would not be able to join together for a korban pesach in order to eat the bone marrow. Alamoach shabrosh my timer. How come you can take part in the korban pesach to eat the brains? Well, because you can extract it. You can chop the brains through the nose, through the nostril bones, holes, whatever, orifices maybe, and you can extract the brains and consume them. Now, masha'en kain by the marrow, you'd be unable to extract the marrow. So now here's the kasha. Nu Abaye, now Abaye, if you want to argue that according to Rebbe, there's no issue with breaking the bones on Erev Pesach because it's not currently able to be eaten, well then, kulis nami. Well then, even if you want to eat even if you're gonna be eating the marrow of the thigh bone, not breaking ba'od yom, why don't you just break the bone on Erev Pesach and take out the marrow and then you'll be able to eat it, right? So meaning, if Abaye is correct that according to Rebbe, on Erev Pesach, since you're unable to eat the korban pesach right now, so you'd be potter for breaking the bones, well then, I should be able to join a korban pesach to eat the bone marrow, because on Erev Pesach, let's just break the bones. It's not right now roi lachila. I'm not going to be chayiv malchus. It's not a prohibition. Break open the thigh bone we're talking about, extract the marrow, and that could be my part in the korban pesach. But from the fact that we're saying that you're not allowed to do that, it sounds like you're dafka not allowed to break the bones on Erev Pesach. So Amr Lach Abaye will respond to you with a taimech according to that argument. Mishachashecha nami naisi gomarta. Well, even at night, I should be able to join together to eat the marrow of the korban pesach. How? Take a coal, v'nechus ale, and put the coal on the bone, v'nikla, and the hot coal will create a hole in the bone, v'nafka l'moach didei, and then you can extract the marrow by way of this hole that you created with a coal, which would not be considered breaking it. It would just be considered like burning it, which would be okay. V'nimnei ale, and then you can use join together on the korban pesach to eat the marrow. Da'atanya, because we learn in the brayso aval asoif ba'atzamos, that if you burn the bones, v'amachatich begidin, and if you cut sinews, ein bo mishum shviras ha'etzem, there's no problem with breaking the bones. So therefore, what Abaye is saying is, one second, this is not a question of breaking the bones. This is a question of, can you take part in the korban pesach to eat the marrow bichlal? There are even permissible ways to remove marrow from a korban pesach without breaking the bones. This isn't an issue of breaking the bones. This is an issue of you simply can't take part in a korban pesach to eat the marrow, even in permissible ways. How come? What's the problem with extracting the marrow essentially by burning, by putting a coal on the bone and making a hole that way? Abaye explains this because, well, if you put the coal on one part of the bone, it might lead to a crack in another part of the bone, which would be shviras ha'etzem. Rava Amar Mishum Hefsid Kodshim. Rav is concerned about losing Kodshim. Kilu, this marrow is going to be considered, it's Kodshim, it's meat that you can eat. The kamafsele biyadayim, that you're going to be deliberately forcing to go to waste. How? Right? Because when you take the coal and you put it on the bone, the hot coal might end up ruining some of the marrow, and you will have deliberately made it inedible, which is a problem. Okay, so that's machlokas between Abaye and Rava as to why you don't extract marrow from a bone by way of permissible means. Abaye is concerned about, well, that might lead to other cracks. Rava is concerned about it might lead to hefsid kodshim. Miba'od yom nami, and also going back to our initial question, Abaye says, look, me'ikar adin, on Erev Pesach, Rebbe would say that you would be allowed to break a bone and extract its marrow. However, we are concerned, we say don't do that, because we're nervous that if you do it on Erev Pesach, you might end up doing it Pesach night, which would of course be a violation of Etzem Lo Sisbru Bo, and you would be Chayiv Malkus. So therefore it says Abaye, just like even at night, you wouldn't be able to extract marrow by way of permissible means. Also on Erev Pesach, you would be unable to extract the marrow by way of permissible means, such as by breaking an Erev Pesach, which Abaye says according to Rebbe would be okay. Nonetheless, we don't do it because we're concerned that you might end up doing it at night. However, Abaye does say that me'ikar adin, Rebbe would say if you break the bones of a korban Pesach on Erev Pesach, you would be potter, since it's not right now able to be eaten. Rav Papa Omar says Rav Papa, and as I said earlier, we're just going to be giving a whole bunch of different nafkaminas, essentially for the rest of the page. Rav Papa Omar, says Rav Papa that no, in Abaye's ukimta, which is on Erev Pesach, everybody would agree that there would be a problem of bone breaking. Even Rebbe would agree. My time, how come? Well, because at night you are able to eat it, right? Meaning there's nothing inherently wrong with this korban Pesach. You're just waiting for Pesach night, and therefore, since it's roy la'achila at night, so therefore, meaning because of a technicality, you don't eat it yet because its time hasn't kicked in yet, but it's something that's roy la'achila. So therefore, if you break the bones, you're going to be chayiv. You can be, violating the prohibition against breaking the bones. Says Rav Papa that the machlokas between the Tanakam and Rebbe is about a limb of an animal of a korban Pesach that left slightly the walls of Jerusalem. Right? You have to eat the korban Pesach. It's kachim kalim. You have to eat it within Jerusalem. If some, let's say, part of the leg left the walls of Jerusalem, Manda Amr kosher hanami kosher. So according to Manda Amr, who says it's about kosher and pasul, well, the korban Pesach itself is still kosher. Just the part that left the walls you can't eat, but the korban Pesach itself is still kosher, and therefore you'd be chayiv malchus. Mandamar roi lachila, hayla barachilahu. But according to the Mandamar who says, according to Rebbe who says that it's about whether or not you can eat the korban Pesach, well, you can't eat this particular part of the korban Pesach that left Jerusalem, and therefore if you break off that part, there won't necessarily be an issue of breaking the bones. Kedetanya, as we learn in the Brayso, Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer, Ever Shiatza Mektaso v'Shibro Ein Bo Mishum Shviras Ha'etzem, as Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka says that if you have a limb of a body that somewhat left Jerusalem, that part of it, if you have a limb of the korban pesach that part of it left Jerusalem, and then you broke off that part of the limb, ein bo mishum shviras ha'etzem, there would not be a violation of breaking the bones, since that part was inedible. Okay? At least that's how we kind of want to twist it. Rav Sheshes Breder of Idi Omar says Rav Sheshes Breder of Idi. We learned about Rav Sheshes Breder of Idi and Daf Mem Tesamud Aleph, that we said that Rav Idi Bar Oven married a Kohenes, got married to a Kohen, a Bas Kohen, and then he had these two wonderful children, one of which was Rav Sheshes Breder of Idi. Omar Kol Ki Agavna Duchuli Ama Ein Bo Mishum Shviras Ha'etzem Dehai Aver Ha-Pasul Hu. So if Sheshes Breder Vidi says no, in Rav Papa's case, we're part of the bone, we're part of the limb left Jerusalem, there would be no issue of breaking the bone, since I guess at least this part of the limb is pasul. Fine. The nafkamina between the Tanakama and Rebbe is about breaking the bones of a korban pesach that has only been slightly cooked, but not cooked well enough. Manda Amar kosher or kosheru, Manda Amar roy lachila, hashten roy lachila. So according to Manda Amar, who says it's about being kosher, well, this is still kosher. You just have to cook it a little bit more, but there's nothing inherently problematic with this korban pesach. However, according to Rebbe, who says it's about being able to eat it, well, you can't eat it right now. So if you would break the bone at this point, you would be potter. That is what Rav Sheshes Breder Vidi says. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Omar says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Kol Ki Agavna Yesh Bo Mishum Shviras Ha'etzem My Taima Ta'chazi La'achila T'mat V'lei V'achile. So says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak that Rav Sheshes Breder Vidi's example, which is when you have a korban pesach that is slightly cooked, says Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak, of course if you break the bones of a korban pesach that's slightly cooked, you're going to be chayav, because there's nothing wrong with this korban. Just put it back on the fire and fully cook it. But there's nothing wrong with it. And if you break the bones at that point, you're going to be chayav. The nafkamina is, what if you break the tailbone of a sheep of a korban pesach? If you offer a little sheep as a korban pesach, there's the fatty tail. So the fatty tail goes on the mizbeach. It's part of the emurin. So what if you break the fatty tail? So mandamar kosher or kosher. So according to mandamar, who says that it's about being kosher, it's kosher. It's the fatty tail. It's kosher. What's the problem? And if you break the bone, you'll be chayiv. Mandamar roy lachila, hay ena roy lachila, talya lagavo salka. But according to mandamar, who's concerned with it being able to be eaten, well, it's not. According to Rebbe, who says it's about being able, roy lachila, being able to be eaten, well, you can't eat the fatty tail. It goes on the mizbeach. So therefore, you would be potter according to Rebbe. Rav Ashi Amar, Kol Ki Agavna Vade Ein Bo Mishum Shviras Ha'etzem Vade Ein Roy La'achila Klal. Rav Ashi says that in Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak's example, certainly you would be potter from Malchus because it's the fatty tail that goes in the mizbeach. It's not Roy La'achila whatsoever. So therefore, certainly you would not be chayav Malchus for breaking its bone. Ella Aver she'ein olav k'zayis basar ikibinayu. So Rav Ashi suggests that the nafkamina is a bone that does not have a kazayis of meat on it. The mandamar kosher, ha kosher. So according to mandamar, it says about being kosher. Well, it's a kosher korban pesach, even if this particular bone doesn't have a kazayis of meat on it. The mandamar roy lachila b'inat shir achila v'leka. But according to Rebbe, it says it's about being fit to eat. Well, there isn't an amount that's fit to eat on this bone. There's only less than a kazayis of meat. So therefore you're going to be potter. According to Rebbe. Ravina Amar says Ravina Kol Ki Agavna Leizbei Mishum Shviras Ha'etzem De'B'inat Shir Achila. Says Ravina that in Rav Ashi's example, where there's no kazayis of meat on the bone, certainly you will be potter because you need a shir achila. There's no bichlal shir achila. There's less than a kazayis of meat on this bone. Ella Aver she'ein olav kazayis basar b'makom zeh v'yesh olav kazayis basar b'makom acher yikar benayu. So Ravina wants to suggest what it's talking about is something slightly different, which is you have a bone that on one part of the bone there's a kazayis of meat, on another part of the bone there's less than a kazayis of meat, and you break the bone where there's less than a kazayis of meat. So on the one end where you broke the bone there was no kazayis of meat, no shir achila, but on a different part of the bone there is a shir achila. So mandamar kosher or kosher. So going to Manda Amar, who says that it's about being kosher, well it's kosher. Mandama roi la'achila ba'inan shir achila b'makom shvira ve'aleka. Whereas according to Rebbe, who says it's about being able to eat it, it's not just about being able to eat it, it's about being able to eat the part where you broke the bone. And here, the part where you broke the bone, there was less than a shir of achila, so therefore you're going to be pater, even though there is a kazayas of meat on a different part of the bone. Tanya, Karba, Minayu, we have a brisa supporting 4 of these opinions. Let's see. The Tanya, as we learn in the brisa, Rebbe Omer says, Rebbe, that you eat the korban pesach in one house, and don't break any bones. Ala kosher uchayev, ve'enu chayev ala apostle. You chayev if for a kosher korban pesach, you are not chayev for apostle korban pesach. Now, haishlo shasa kosher v'nifsal. So now Rebbe explains what he means, and in his explanation, we're going to reference 4 of the opinions that we listed until this point. Let's see if I could remember them. Haishlo shasa kosher v'nifsal. So if it was kosher and then became apostle, so according to Rebbe, what do we say? You would be pater from malchus because right now it's apostle, and that was Rav Yosef's opinion. Also, at the time of eating, oh no, one second. Oh, okay, I read that wrong. One second. If you had had shasa kosher, it was a kosher korban pesach, and then it became pasul at the time of eating it, then there's no problem of shviras etzem, because right now it is inedible. That was like the opinion of Rav Yosef. Okay? Now, yesh bo shir achila, yesh bo mishum shviras etzem. If there is a shiur achila, amount that can be eaten, a kazayas, so then there's an issue of shviras etzem. Ein bo shir achila, if there is not an amount that can be eaten, ein bo mishum shviras etzem, then there is no issue of shviras etzem. That's like either Rav Ashi, who says you need a kazayas, or Ravina, who says you need a kazayas at the point where you break it. Haroy lemizbeach, ein bo mishum shviras etzem. So, something that is fit for the mizbeach, there is no issue of shviras etzem, i.e. the aliyah, which was Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's opinion. At the time when you're going to eat the korban pesach, there's an issue of breaking the bones. But if you're not able to eat it, i.e. erev pesach, there's no issue of shviras etzem, i.e. like Abaye. So we saw this brisa supports Rav Yosef's opinion, Abaye's opinion, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak's opinion, and Rav Ashi / Ravina. That was daf. What daf was that? Pegimel or something? Pedalid? Something. We go too fast. Who can keep up? The daf Pedalid of Masechet Pesachim. I think it was alright. It was like kind of not too crazy, right? I think. So what did we talk about? Eating cartilage of a korban pesach. Exactly. We started off with a new Mishnah, which said that only the parts of a mature ox, only the parts that you can eat on a mature ox, you can eat on a young, soft goat. And then we said, and you can also eat the tips of the shoulder blades and the cartilage. So the question is like, but those are parts that you cannot eat on a mature ox. So Rabbah said, well, it's machlokas tanoim. Rabbah said, no, it's an explanation. What it means is that anything you can eat on a large ox, even if you have to boil it first in order to eat it, you can eat by a korban pesach. And examples of that would be the tips of the shoulder blades and cartilage. We also saw machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish about this. In the end, we saw that Rabbi Yochanan agrees with Reish Lakish that you would be unable to eat the cartilage and things, even though they're soft now, but if in the future they're going to be hard, you would be unable to eat them. In the korban pesach, we discussed, no sir. When it comes to if you leave over some of the meat, you don't eat it by the morning, so you're not going to be chayiv malchus for that. You just have to burn it, as we learned the other day on the 16th, on the second day of Pesach. So the question is, why are you not chayiv malchus? So Rabbi Yehuda says because it's a lav shenitak la'aseh. It's a lav that's immediately followed by an aseh. It says don't do this. In the event that you did, do the following, and then you won't be chayiv malchus. Rabbi Yaakov says it's because of lav she'ein bo ma'aseh. There's no actual activity here. It became the morning, it wasn't eaten, so memela, it's no sir, but you didn't actually do anything, therefore you're not chayiv malchus. Then we discussed breaking the bones of a korban pesach. The Tanna Kama says that if the korban pesach is pasul, so there's no problem of breaking the bones. Rebbe says that it's about whether or not you can eat the korban pesach. If you can eat the korban pesach, you'll be chayiv. If you can't eat the korban pesach, you'll be pasul. And then we gave a whole slew of nafkaminas, situations where, it might be pasul, or it might be kosher but not roi la'achila. We had all sorts of examples. I'm not going to go through all of them now. We just did them. But that was Daf Pei Daled. Enjoy.